Okay, so firstly, thanks for agreeing to do this. I've
No
been
problem.
doing a few interviews, getting some feedback from some of my previous clients, because it's
Mhm.
often helpful for someone who is looking for a therapist to get a sense of, what the therapist is like from people who've worked with her or with him.
Sure.
So firstly, how was it you found me?
I actually remember pretty well. I was lying in bed scrolling on my phone, and I am pretty sure your name came up on one of the Facebook pages that I was a member of.
Hmm.
I think it was Expats in Valencia or something along those lines. And I looked at kind of, I don't know if it was a post or someone else might have shared it, but your profile came up and I had a look at your description and what you did. And I was actually looking for a therapist at the time. So the more I read about you, and I went to your website as well, it seemed pretty clear that you were exactly what I needed for my particular situation at that time. And it was in English and you were close by. So I was like, oh my God, this is perfect.
Yeah, so to explain, you're one of my more locally based clients who are in Spain. So a
Yeah.
lot of my clients were from all over, and I have a
Mhm.
handful that have kind of find me in Spain through local advertising. So
Mhm.
had you had therapy before?
I had, but very sporadically, sort of on and off. I'd gone to therapy when I was in real sort of times of crisis, but it never extended on to anything prolonged, really.
And how would you found it? Had it helped?
Help. Yeah, definitely. It was very helpful. And it helped me through those moments of crisis. But and I suppose I came away whenever I decided to stop doing it for whatever reason it was at the time. I always felt quite regretful, and I think that had a lot to do with the fact that I realized that it did help me and it was beneficial, and I knew I wanted to continue, just the circumstances for whatever reason weren't right at the time.
So was there any differences in the way I worked and compared to what you'd had before?
Um, I think with you, it was almost instantly a different connection that I felt from our first session. I really liked I liked your delivery a lot in the sessions, and the way, just the way you expressed yourself, the way you spoke to me. It was kind of the perfect balance between understanding and listening and comforting, but also quite firm, which for me was exactly what I needed, because I was in a very confused, sort of lost place, and I definitely needed that sort of straightforward, firm guidance, but at the same time feeling like I was very much listened to, and I was allowed to be vulnerable and open up. So it was a really good balance for me. My previous therapists, they had been, I would say they had been very understanding, and like I said, it did help me through those times, those really difficult times, to be able to open up and have them listen to me. But I think I just felt like there was some guidance lacking that I definitely found when I started sessions with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes what happens in therapy is we start with the premise that the client will find their own way,
Mhm.
which is, obviously what we're aiming to get towards. But at the beginning, when you're in the middle of crisis, sometimes
Mhm.
it's something much more directed to sort out where you're at and what you're thinking.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So, did working with me, did it make any real changes? Did it help in any sort of concrete way?
Yeah, I think it sort of significantly solidified my, don't want to say belief in therapy, but it really opened my eyes to how much, first of all, how much it can benefit people, and how much I personally needed it. Um, which was really nice, because it felt for the first time that there was like a solid, resource or tool that I could say, even if I wasn't doing, I could say, right, well, I know that this is what I need, so I'm going to do whatever I need to do, whether it's financially or personally, to carry on with this or to start this. So that was kind of an eye-opening moment for me. And yeah, I mean, remember a lot of things that was said in the sessions, a lot of pieces of advice, and sort of not just advice, but giving things a name, giving things a structure that I hadn't been able to sort of figure out before by myself, that you gave me, that have really stuck with me to this day. Like I still revert back to a lot of things that you've said to me in our sessions, and apply them to things going on in my current situations. So yeah.
So just in general, you know, what did it feel like working with me? Was it a positive experience? Was it challenging? How would you say?
I wouldn't say it was challenging. I think I suppose it depends on how people look at it, but I mean, it was emotionally, you know, it was a lot, but I think that's how therapy should be. And that's what helped me, was being able to really open up and get certain and voice certain feelings. So there was a lot of emotion, but that felt great. So I can't really say that it was even difficult. And it was extremely positive. I honestly think that you kind of just like led me through one of the pretty much most difficult times and difficult relationships of my life. It was really, really beneficial.
Did you feel heard?
Yes, yeah, definitely. Every single session we had, I felt very listened to, and not just listened to, but it was the relief of being listened to and then being told something, or being given some guidance, or like I said, a name to something, or some sort of structure that I could then, it very like validated very much how I was feeling and what I was going through. So yeah, it was.
Yeah. So would you recommend me? Would you, if someone was in a difficult situation, whether it be relationship or work situation, would you be willing to recommend me?
I would. I definitely would. Yeah, I think I've got so much from our sessions, and I know that I initially started with you because of one particular topic or one particular relationship, but it did then, the more sessions we did, they did sort of filter into other aspects of my life that at the time I probably didn't even know that I needed to treat in therapy. So it started to cover a large sort of variety of areas of my life, and I think that's great, and that's pretty much the reason why it opened my eyes to how much therapy is needed. Yeah, so I would 100% recommend working with you.
So this is just a general question. Was working with me how you thought therapy was going to be?
Oof. That's a tough one. I don't know how clear my image was at the time before working with you of that it would have been of therapy. You know, I had experience, but because that experience was never sort of continuous, it was so sporadic. I didn't really have time to form a full opinion of it. So my opinion of therapy, I mean, I didn't really have one. I knew at the back of my mind that it was something beneficial, supposedly, but I really didn't have a clear image of what sessions were going to be like. So I was nicely surprised, I suppose you could say, because I didn't have any sort of preconceptions or anything. And I was, at the time in my life, I was in a very, very, just in general, lost and confused place. So I couldn't really make sense of anything most of the time.
Yeah, you were in a very vulnerable position at the beginning.
Yeah.
The reason I ask is often people, when they first start working with me, one of the shocks is that I tend to be fairly down to earth and straightforward.
I will have to say I really liked that, and I have mentioned that a lot to even just to friends when I've talked about you and about our sessions, and it's one of the things that made me feel so comfortable, because it was, you know, it was very relatable therapy, and I don't know if that's the right word to use, but it wasn't like being sort of lectured or, you know, spoken to by a doctor who you probably feel on a very different level to. It was very much, you know, like talking to like a really emotionally intelligent auntie, for example, if that makes sense. It was very
Yeah, you call
comfortable.
it auntie therapy.
Yeah, yeah. It was great.
Well, thank you very much for giving me some feedback, and it
No
has been
problem.
a pleasure working with you, and no doubt we'll continue to talk in the future.
Definitely, definitely. I wish you all the best, Anne.